The 2022 Tokyo International Summit on African Development, which held in Tunisia, has ended with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida promising participants $30 billion investment in African aid and to pressure for an African seat at the UN Security Council. Plus, deadly clashes erupted over the weekend in Tripoli, Libya, killing over 32 persons, properties damaged, and several persons injured to end Tripoli's month-long stretch of relative calm. Those are my big stories of tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. I am Tekewana at the anchor. We begin this day from the just ended TICAD, whereby over 30 African heads of state and a Japanese delegation have rounded off talks on promoting African-led development, which held in Tunisia. At the end of the conference, the Japanese have promised $30 billion aid to Africa investment, as well as other resolutions, which of course were read and put together by our reporter, Fotso.
Auspice of the Japanese government and with the collaboration of the United Nations Development Program, the African Union and the World Bank, TICAD is in 8th edition and the second to be held on African soil after Kenya in 2016. According to an official note, the head of the Ivorian government gave a short and highly appreciated speech by an audience made up of luminaries, including the President of the Republic of Tunisia, Kais Saied, the Senegalese Macky Sall, President of the African Union, and 20 other African heads of state and government, as well as the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who followed the opening ceremony via video conference. Patrick Ashi relied on the theme of the 8th Tokyo International Conference on African Development towards a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous Africa to discuss the future of the continent. This development enthusiast has noticed that Africa is facing storms that question its growth, its independence, and this peaceful solidarity between the large bloc, which alone allows ever greater human development. With this parameter, the head of the government of Alassane Ouattara, father of the program A Solidarity Ivory Coast, exposed the Ivorian approach to development, an approach that draws its sources from the analysis of current difficulties, in particular, the consequences of COVID-19 and those of the war in Ukraine. Faced with this crisis amplified by the challenge of climate change, the African continent must react and transform itself. For him, there is a need. It is time for Africa to forge its own growth model to gain sovereignty at all levels, from food independence to the management of its security, through the acceleration of its industry. The ZLECAf, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is for the Ivorian head of government a godsend, especially since it offers African companies a great opportunity for expansion. He insists on this approach put into practice Ivory Coast. The choice of this economic model must lead to African sovereignty in the most important sectors, as the Tunisian President Kais Saied, who hosts TICAD 8, also said. It should be noted that more than 66 official delegations attended this 8th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, in addition to regional and international organizations. Its objective was to identify ways to achieve resilience, inclusion, and abundance in Africa, in a context of crisis marked by the global epidemic of the new coronavirus, global warming, and the situation in Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Fotso. Let's go over to Libya, where violent clashes between two rival armed groups in Libya's capital Tripoli over the weekend left more than 30 persons dead, several others injured, and huge material damages recorded. Though calm has returned in the town, the atmosphere still remains tense, as you tell us, Mwanzi.
Clashes between two rival military groups in Libya erupted in the capital Tripoli over the weekend, leaving over 32 dead. The fighting broke out between armed groups loyal to the Tripoli-based government against other armed groups allied with a rival administration that has for months sought to be seated in the capital. Following these attacks, Libya's Prime Minister condemned these acts and stressed on the need for elections.
This aggression was overcome. They turned away defeated, dragging the tale of disappointment and shame as they walk on the blood of the innocent, which they shed for the sake of power and their bloated egos.
Libya has faced conflicts and instability since a NATO-backed uprising killed the former leader Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. The oil-rich country has for years been split between rival administrations, each backed by armed groups and foreign governments. The current stalemate grew out of the failure to hold elections in December. In response, the country's East-based parliament appointed a rival Prime Minister Fathi Bashagha, who has for months sought to install his government in Tripoli. Violent clashes are not uncommon in Libya's capital, as last month at least 13 people were killed following these clashes.
Let's move over to Angola, where amid post-election tensions, Angola held a funeral on Sunday for long-serving former leader José Eduardo dos Santos, who died in Spain last month. Our reporter Jakes Nabise followed the funeral closely, and this is her report.
Amid post-election tensions, Angolans held a funeral on Sunday for long-serving former leader José Eduardo dos Santos, who died in Spain in July. The burial of dos Santos, who died last month in a clinic in Barcelona at the age of 79, was delayed by a family request for an autopsy. His funeral was taking place days after an elections that appeared to have returned his MPLA party to power, but the results have been disputed by the opposition. Dos Santos and his family dominated the country's politics for over 30 years, that he ruled until 2017. His once massive party, the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, MPLA, in power for nearly 5 decades, looks certain to have won last Wednesday poll. The former leader's rule was marked by a 27-year on-off civil war against US-backed rebels from the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, who he defeated in 2002. Over the years, the country has enjoyed an off-world boom, but more than half of the population of more than 30 million seem to live in poverty. Social Affairs Minister Carolina Quevedo said, using the honorific title dos Santos earned for ending a conflict that killed 500,000 people, that they were paying tribute to the former president for his contribution he made to the nation as the architect of peace. Heads of state and senior ministers from around the continent, as well as the president of Angola's former colonial ruler Portugal, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, attended the funeral. The presence of foreign entities enabled authorities to seek the head of possible protests over the disputed provincial results, which give the MPLA and the president João Lorenzo a 51% majority, while UNITA, now the main opposition, got 44.5%. The opposition has rejected the elections results, and there have been sporadic protests that were quickly shut down by police. However, the Electoral Commission has repeatedly said the process was fair and transparent.
And may his gentle soul rest in peace. Now, let's come down to the Central African Republic, where the recent proposed constitutional reform by President Faustin Archange Touadéra has not been gladly welcomed by most of his countrymen. And of course, it should be noted that the constitution is stating clearly that the 2 term of office of the president should be abolished and extended for 3 years. Let's get the details in this report. The recent decision by President Archange Touadéra of the Central African Republic setting up a commission to rewrite the constitution of the country, which will provide the head of state to run for a 3rd and even 4th term in office, has not been gladly welcomed by civil society activists and political figures in Bangui, backing up their claim that constitutional changes is not a priority of the people at the moment, but rather overcoming economic challenges.
We do not understand that today, when the Central African people are experiencing other problems, we are suddenly presented with a story about amending or revising or drafting a new constitution like a thunderclap during the dry season. This is not a priority of the Central African people. The aim of this maneuver is to blow up the logs, limiting the number of presidential terms to 2, so that Touadéra will be president for life.
More and more voices are being raised over the months for a change in the constitution, according to officials who have expressed the need for the amendment of the 2-term limit and allow the president to run for a 3rd term in 2025 didn't end well in March 2022, with condemnation from international organizations and civil societies. Thus, this new wave of protest from the civil society and other opposition parties is destined to express their commitment to the non-revision of the constitution. Touadera won a second term in 2020 with a 53.16% share of the vote in a controversial poll amid widespread insecurity in the Central African Republic, which has been battling a decade-long civil war. It is hoped this issue of scrapping the two-term presidential limit set in the constitution shall not spark another wave of violence the Central African Republic is already plunged into. Political analysts have advised the change of the constitution should be decided unanimously and not individually. They insist a constitutional change of a democratic country should be collective to the satisfaction of the people. Visionary Touadera has been since he rose to prominence, and thus it would be wise for him to seek the wisdom of King Solomon to see through the litany of challenges his country is facing and drive it to the path of development as the wish of the people. In our sport news tonight, we begin throwing our sports tentacles from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where over 50 boys aged 10 to 16 were selected to join the newly opened football school in the Virunga National Park, a natural treasure famous for its mountain gorillas and volcanoes, but also plagued by armed groups. We are told these young men have been told that it is time good for them to drop their arms and embrace peace. Ewana Epole takes us on a ride to Virunga.
About 50 boys aged 10 to 16 were selected to join the newly opened football school in Virunga National Park at Rumangoba, a village in North Kivu and military base plagued by armed groups. According to the government of the Republic of Congo, this region is close to the battle zone of the rebels of March 23rd movement, an old insurgency that regained strength late last year with the support of neighboring Rwanda. Young people born in the chaos and violence in the East region, having no hopes and plans, are easily recruited by armed groups. This area where the project has been set up, according to Boyong, the coordinator of the Young Football Project, is a strategic area for them to be easily manipulated by these multiple armed groups that exist therein. Consequently, the presence of this school paves the way for the positive pastime, which will prevent the youth from being manipulated. He added that it was a way to spread the message of peace. Thus, several young people are kicking the ball with the hope of becoming professional footballers in the near future, rather than ending up in one of these militias that have been blooding the Eastern Democratic region of Congo for decades now.
Indeed, football is a vector of peace and unity. Now, let's come to Cameroon, where the Executive Committee of the Cameroon Football Federation met in Douala over the weekend. One of the big resolutions arrived at was to extend the mandate of the presidency from 4 to 7 years. Aside that, there were other 16 other resolutions that were arrived at the end of the day. The details in this report. A total of 65 out of 73 delegates that make up the General Assembly of the Cameroon Football Federation attended the Douala meeting over the weekend. The stakes were high and the expected changes visible, given that the International Court of Arbitration had just announced and confirmed President Samuel Eto'o as president of the institution and declared free from any legal implications from his distractors. However, several resolutions were arrived at after hours of deliberation to examine the report card of the organization, amongst which the unanimous agreement by the delegates to dissolve the Professional Football League, the approval of the 2022-2023 sports calendar, an assignment given to the president to contact former President Tombi Aroko Sidiki to request documents signed during his mandate relating to the construction of stadiums and other sports infrastructures. The executive members have equally authorized their president to investigate anyone or group of persons who have robbed the federation of its fund in the past. Nevertheless, while addressing the executive members, Samuel Eto'o reiterated his commitment to construct 10 new stadiums in the country, with Bamenda and Kuseri to be the first beneficiaries in the months ahead. The coming back of the Cameroon Golden Ball Award with an award gala night to compensate the best football actors of the season. the return of beach soccer and futsal championships after 14 years absence. The sum of 48 million francs will be given as subvention to each Elite One club, while 100 million francs is the prize package to be given to the next Elite One champion, are all some of the mouth-watering resolutions arrived at over the weekend. Mindful of the tremendous changes the Chiga House has been witnessing in terms of balance and checks, there was a unanimous vote to extend the terms of office of the president from 4 to 7 years, as highlighted on resolution number 13. How far can all of this go? Shall definitely require tact and patience for a successful end. And so that sports report put a wrap to today's English Primetime Newscast on For You Television. We want to thank you all immensely for your kind attention. Until then, we shall be back again tomorrow. From Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, passing through Yaoundé, Cameroon. God bless Motherland Africa. Bye-bye.